Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a complex and pressing topic that has shaped global politics, economics, and security conversations for years. The financial strain crippling Ukraine's war efforts in ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Inspired by discussions raised in the WION report, Russia-Ukraine War, Cash Crunch Cripples Kyiv's War Machine. This script breaks down the situation in clear, concise language. We'll explore how Ukraine reached this point, the economic realities behind the battlefield, the consequences of funding shortages, and what the future might hold. The paragraphs will be short, the flow will be conversational, and the content will remain easy to follow as we walk through a major turning point in the conflict. Ukraine entered this war with a mix of determination, external support, and a belief that unity with allies would sustain its defense. For much of the conflict, that belief held strong. Billions of dollars in military aid flowed from Western partners, ammunition and equipment arrived regularly, and promises of long-term support helped the country hold the front line. But wars aren't just fought with courage and political goodwill. They're fought with cash, massive amounts of it. The longer a war drags on, the more brutally financial pressure begins to show. Today, Kyiv is confronting exactly that reality. The war has taken a devastating toll on Ukraine's economy. Entire industries have collapsed. Cities producing critical goods have been destroyed or occupied. Millions of workers have been displaced, reducing labor supply and productivity. Revenue streams the government once relied on, like taxes from thriving businesses, have dried up or shrunk drastically. Despite international loans and grants, Ukraine's economic engine is nowhere near what it once was. Every month of fighting pushes the already struggling economy into deeper stress. Because of this, Ukraine's government is forced to make painful decisions. Paying soldiers, running hospitals, maintaining infrastructure, supporting displaced citizens, and keeping public institutions functioning all cost money. When the treasury is stretched thin, leaders face the difficult task of deciding what gets funded and what gets delayed. The military becomes only one of many competing priorities. In wartime, that dilemma is especially dangerous. One of the biggest challenges Ukraine faces now is maintaining a steady supply of ammunition. Artillery shells, rockets, and defense systems are among the most expensive items a country can purchase. Although allies have provided substantial support, the cost of sustaining a high-intensity war is staggering. Kyiv needs not just a one-time infusion of funds or weapons, but a continuous, predictable supply. When funding becomes uncertain, the entire military chain, from procurement to delivery to deployment, starts to weaken. Another issue is troop compensation. Soldiers on the front line depend on salaries to support their families, pay bills, and maintain morale. When funding is delayed or threatens to run dry, it affects more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It affects real people risking their lives. Delays in payments can lead to frustration, anxiety, and a sense of abandonment. In a war where morale is as important as ammunition, these problems can have serious consequences. Ukraine's military also relies heavily on technology-driven warfare. Drones, anti-aircraft systems, advanced radar, and long-range precision weapons are crucial tools that help compensate for numerical disadvantages. But advanced technology is expensive, far more expensive than traditional weapons. When funding becomes limited, upgrading or replacing this technology becomes increasingly difficult. Falling behind in technological capability means losing crucial advantages on the battlefield. The financial pressure doesn't end with weapons. Logistics, transport, fuel, medical supplies, communication systems, and repairs all require constant funding. A modern military machine is a massive ecosystem that consumes resources every single day. Even in moments when fighting slows, the cost of readiness remains high. When you combine the cost of a 24/7 war effort with an economy struggling to stay afloat, the result is a widening financial deficit that cannot be ignored. Ukraine's dependence on Western aid adds another layer of uncertainty. While allies have been supportive, political shifts in donor countries have created delays and debates about further funding. Elections, economic downturns, government disagreements, and competing national priorities all influence how much aid reaches Ukraine. When political debates stall funding packages, even temporarily, the impact is felt immediately on the battlefield. Some Western nations are also experiencing aid fatigue. After years of providing billions in support, governments and taxpayers begin questioning how long such commitments can continue. These concerns don't always reflect a lack of sympathy. Sometimes they stem from domestic crises that divert attention and resources elsewhere. Regardless of the reason, reduced or delayed aid places Ukraine in a dangerous position. As the cash crunch deepens, Ukraine has begun making difficult appeals to international lenders. Loans come with long-term economic consequences, higher debt, interest payments, and pressure to impose financial austerity. A country already weakened by war may face decades of economic recovery. These long-term concerns compete directly with immediate survival needs. Kyiv is forced to balance its future stability against the urgent demands of war. The financial crisis also limits Ukraine's ability to invest in reconstruction. Cities destroyed by bombings need rebuilding, but without external support, progress is painfully slow. The longer rebuilding lags, the harder it is for businesses to reopen, workers to return, and the economy to restart. This creates a vicious cycle. Weak economies limit war funding, and ongoing war prevents economic recovery. International observers continue to warn that a lack of steady financing could shift the war's trajectory. Ukraine needs predictable support to maintain defenses, train new soldiers, repair equipment, and prevent further territorial losses. Any disruption in financial flow risks weakening frontline positions, and in modern warfare, even small vulnerabilities can be quickly exploited. Russia, meanwhile, has adjusted its strategy based on these financial realities. With extensive natural resources, state control over industry, and partnerships with other nations, Moscow has managed to stabilize parts of its war economy. Sanctions have hurt, but not enough to halt military spending. As Ukraine faces shortages, Russia continues producing missiles, drones, and artillery in large quantities. This imbalance places additional pressure on Kyiv and underscores the importance of financial stability in wartime. It's important to understand that Ukraine's cash crunch isn't simply about mismanagement. It's the result of waging a war against a far larger, better-funded military power for an extended period. No country, regardless of its efficiency or planning, can fight indefinitely without sustained financial backing. Wars drain even the strongest economies. For a country already under strain, the impact is multiplied. Despite these challenges, Ukraine continues to show resilience. The population remains committed to defending the country. Volunteers, civil groups, and local communities support soldiers in creative ways, crowdfunding for drones, organizing local relief efforts, and rebuilding damaged areas step by step. This grassroots support does not replace government funding, but it demonstrates a spirit that has carried Ukraine through its darkest moments. Still, resilience alone cannot fund a modern war. Kyiv's leaders continue urging global partners to maintain military and financial support. They argue that aid to Ukraine is not charity, but an investment in global stability. Allowing Russia to gain ground could embolden similar actions elsewhere, destabilizing regions far beyond Eastern Europe. For many governments, this argument remains persuasive, but political realities continue to complicate decisions. As winter approaches or intensifies, financial strain becomes even more critical. The cost of heating, humanitarian aid, temporary housing, and emergency response rises dramatically. War doesn't pause for harsh weather. Soldiers still require gear, fuel, food, and medical care. Civilians need shelter and electricity. The government must manage both fronts simultaneously while resources shrink. Ukraine's financial institutions warn that without consistent external funding, the government may face difficult cuts. Essential services could be impacted, public salaries may face delays, infrastructure projects may be suspended. These disruptions can weaken overall stability, creating openings that adversaries may exploit. War is not fought only by armies, it's fought by nations. When the nation struggles financially, the war effort becomes harder to sustain. The global community continues monitoring the situation closely. Some nations discuss increasing their aid through long-term security agreements. Others propose new methods of support, such as seizing frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine's defense. These ideas face legal and political challenges, but they reflect growing acknowledgement that Ukraine's financial crisis cannot be ignored. If solutions aren't found, Kyiv may be forced to scale back certain military operations. Reducing activity in specific areas can help conserve ammunition and resources, but it might also allow Russian forces to advance or strengthen positions. Every strategic decision becomes a balance between financial limitations and military necessity. These choices carry significant consequences on the ground. On the diplomatic front, Ukraine continues advocating for broader international involvement. Leaders emphasize that the conflict is not isolated. It shapes global food security, energy markets, and international law. By framing the war as a global issue, Kyiv hopes to maintain the international solidarity that has been essential since the conflict began. But diplomatic support doesn't always translate into immediate financial relief. Despite the severe challenges, Ukraine maintains hope for renewed support. Several partners continue supplying military equipment, though sometimes in smaller or delayed shipments. Humanitarian groups remain active. Nonprofits, private companies, and diaspora communities contribute as much as they can. Every contribution, large or small, helps Ukraine stay afloat during this financially devastating period. Looking ahead, the path remains uncertain. Much depends on political decisions in key allied nations, the pace of economic recovery, and developments on the battlefield. If fresh funding arrives, Ukraine could stabilize its military operations and regain momentum. If delays continue, the situation may worsen, possibly altering the course of the war. Regardless of what happens next, the financial strain now revealed is a stark reminder of how wars are fought. They aren't won by courage alone, nor by advanced weapons, nor by strong alliances in isolation. They're won through sustained effort, adequate funding, and strategic endurance. When any one of these pillars weakens, the entire structure begins to shake. For Ukraine, the challenge isn't merely surviving today's battles, but ensuring it has the resources to keep fighting tomorrow. The cash crunch is more than a budget issue. It's a threat to national security, territorial integrity, and the lives of millions who depend on a stable government. Kyiv's challenge is immense, but so is its determination. As this situation continues unfolding, the world watches closely. Many hope for a breakthrough that can ease Ukraine's financial burden and ensure its defense remains strong. Until then, the struggle continues on the battlefield, in government offices, in international meeting rooms, and in the daily lives of Ukrainian citizens trying to rebuild amid chaos. Thank you for watching and staying informed on one of the most critical issues shaping our world today. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to stay tuned for more updates and deeper insights. Your engagement helps keep important conversations alive, and together we can continue shedding light on global events that matter.